All right, welcome in everyone. American Leeds, the American Leeds podcast. With me tonight is Brendan, Paniker, and Phil. You might know Phil. He hosts Twitter Spaces. He also I believe you got that Twitter chat going as well. There must be feels like 50 or so people in there. Um, I don't know your exact handle. Oh no, I've got it here. Is his handle is at POW 7777777. But you can find him if you probably put in Phil or
Yeah,
Pal
yeah.
at Phil or Pal, something Leeds related, you'll find
Phil
him.
Powell leads. Do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bowlegs.
um, and yeah, I'm excited to have both you guys on. For those of you that don't know, Brendan is a Leeds United fan from Canada. He hooked up with Michael at Toronto Maple Leeds in that fan club there, and has been a Leeds fan for about, I think, actually around the same time I have, just before
Yeah.
maybe Bielsa,
Yes.
and was choosing clubs. And then his wife's family, I believe, is from Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dad,
yeah.
father-in-law was born in Leeds, and then he moved to Canada when he was 25. So when it came time to getting into football and picking a team, the choice was rather obvious.
Choice was obvious. And Phil, so let's dig it right into it. Phil, I've connected with you a couple times online, but you are kind of born and bred Leeds. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in a small city just outside Leeds called Wakefield. Um,
Oh, I know
I
exactly where that is, Phil. That's
you
exactly
know
where
it?
my wife's side of the family is from.
Ah,
They're in
uh,
Rothwell.
in Rothwell.
Yeah.
If she was in Rothwell, I was about a mile and a half away from
Wow.
there.
That
So
is small
I was a
world.
place called Newton Hill.
I know
Uh,
exactly where that is. That's crazy.
so wow, yeah, it's just crazy. Um, I didn't choose Leeds United. Leeds United chose me. That's my take on it. Um, and I fell in love with them. I can tell you exactly the time that I fell in love with them. One Friday night when my father's friend came into the house and went, "Look at this. This is worth more than gold." And it was an FA Cup final ticket for the Leeds United Arsenal FA Cup final.
Wow.
Wow.
And that is my first memory of Leeds United. And then watching the game from there on the day after on the Saturday. And I've been Leeds ever since. So yeah, so potentially I'm 60 this year, so 55, 56 years ish.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Congratulations. So you've seen the
Oh,
ups and downs.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Um,
Well, go ahead.
and again, that's exactly right. I've been through. I'm lucky to have been through the broad spectrum of some fantastic highs and some really bad lows. So I get the whole perspective of where we are and how we're moving forward.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of fans or the people that like follow my channel. It's a small channel, but they're a lot of them are, seasoned Leeds United fans. So shout out to all you guys out there that have been following this club since Rivy and maybe even beforehand. And that's one thing Gier always emphasizes on my channel is how special the club is and the history of the club. And it's one of the things I think Brendan and I why we both became fans. But all right, so we'll step into the present day, Leeds United. I haven't got a chance to really connect with you guys. Just what's your just synopsis so far of the season, Daniel Farka, how we're kind of getting this season kicked off. So we'll start with Brendan and then go to Phil.
It's no, I don't think it's been as bad as last year or as bad as it's been made out to be so far this year. Like I just pulled up the form table from last year, and after 6 match days, Leeds were in 10th in the table with 9 points. Leicester was 15. In first was Preston with 16, and we saw how they dropped off as the season went along. Still a long season, but I feel like when you truly take a step back and you look at, obviously the Bielsa days and how good that was, how much he hid the dysfunction behind the club and everything along those lines. and then the managers that followed him until Daniel Fark. The next good manager, and look, Daniel Fark obviously has his flaws. We're seeing that from time to time, but I feel like the next good manager was always destined to fail because the times are good right now. They won a lot of football matches last year, and they've continued that into this year so far. So we've been winning a lot more than we were towards the end of the Premier League era. But I think the heat is a little too much on Daniel right now, and that's because I'm seeing positive trends defensively. They truly are a much better defensive unit than they were at this time last year, save for the Portsmouth game at the beginning of the year. And, you know, he was getting a lot of criticism on Saturday against Cardiff for not blowing them out 4-5-6-0. At the end of the day, a 2-0 win still going to get you those 3 points. At the end of the day, it might just help the goal difference a little bit more. But protecting the lead, they've been really solid at the back. And look, they do create a lot of chances. Like on Saturday, they probably could have scored 4 or 5 against Portsmouth. They probably could have scored 7. And then the only game where they really didn't look like they had much of an attacking threat was the West Brom game, which, looking at the way they've started, is a very good point to get away at the Hawthorns. So I'd say it's been a slightly better start than last year. They're 2 points ahead of where they were at this point last year. They were about 6-7 points behind Leicester. They're only 5 points back of first with West Brom. Ton of football left. And, you know, this stretch is really going to make it for me, guys. Like, you have Coventry on Saturday, a team that's owned Leeds the last little while. Mark Robbins is a very, very solid manager. But you got to get those 3 points. Coventry are not in good form right now. I think I can't remember exactly what the point total was, but they got 3 points against Leeds last year, but that's one of the only set of points that they've gotten in the last like 50 something points available to them. It's not been a good run for Coventry under Mark Robbins. So you have to win that match. And then you get into some difficult ones. You got Sunderland next week, Friday, who are blazing right now. Joe Bellingham has been incredible. And then shortly on the horizon after that, you got Norwich too. You should be able to win that. But that game against Sheffield, right after the international break on that Friday, they are going to be fireworks, fellas. It is going to be a fantastic match. And that is going to be the game that sets the tone for the rest of the season for me. But, you know, get a couple more wins before the international break, but beat Sheffield, please, and screw over Chris Wilder.
Oh, all right, excellent. Yeah, good synopsis of the run-in too.
That was a rant. I'm sorry.
No, I loved it. I loved it. That was in depth. That was good. What do you think, Phil? Are they been solid? You said you were seeing signs defensively that it might even be better than last year. What's your take, Phil? What do you think?
I'm sort of positive about it as well. I think it's a bit of a shame because everybody after Bielsa is judged by Bielsa. And I think if you were to swap the two managers round in their respective eras, if Daniel Farke had done what Bielsa would have done, it would have been lauded. But I also think if Bielsa was doing what Daniel Farke's doing now, there wouldn't be half the pressure on him. I think there'd be a lot more give and take. I just think it's a little bit about the style of play because of Bielsa's totally attacking football that people want that then all the time. And that then takes away a little bit from the actual enjoyment of going on record-breaking seasons like last season and 90 points and that kind of thing. And we should have been promoted. If it hadn't been such a crazy season, we would have been. I can't see another manager out there at this moment in time that you will put in Daniel Farke's place. I think he's doing a good job. I'm disappointed he didn't get a 10 because I think if we'd have got a 10 this season, we'd have been absolutely flying. But on the whole, I'm quite happy. We're still really early in the season. Give the guys a little bit of time. Again, we're bedding new people in, new players in. We're playing a different style of football. Not great different, but a different style of football. We've got a lot of players going out. Give the guys a bit of time to bed in and let Daniel do his thing and get behind him and give him a bit of support. I'm still quite confident. I really am.
I'm in the same boat as you, Phil, 100%. Like, one thing I'll say, Alex, before you go, the only reason why I think all this heat is on him is because the only trend that's really continued from the end of last year is not being able to break down a low block. And that is frustrating. And keeping, passing it from one wing back to the defenders, back to Melier to the other wing. And you got a lot of possession. He does need to figure that out. And if they figure that out and can break down a low block, then they will fly. Just wait until Ao Tanaka gets in the squad because I think he will
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Breaking down a low block is hard, right? It's there's a reason why teams implement it, and it was honestly tough for Bielsa. I remember when teams would go down 10 men against Bielsa, and Calvin Phillips and other people were interviewed as saying it almost gets harder to score against 10 men than it is against 11, because they would be coming out a little bit more and we could move them and do switch balls and things like that, patterns in play, and express ourselves a little bit more than when it just becomes a block. um, so yeah, I mean that's a difficult one for him to answer. And obviously in the Bielsa era in the championship, we had Pablo who could unlock a defense in that number 10
Yeah,
spot. We also had Click. He played with, in my estimation, it was kind of like a 2 10s. He had 2 10 partnerships with Click and Pablo, and then but if you remember, Pablo in that second championship season came off the bench. He was actually somebody that would come on and seal the victory, which I think is what Perot is hopefully going to be doing in the championship this season. I like him off the bench. I think his legs are fresher. I think he clicks better, kind of coming off the bench for an extra goal. And I think the defensive behind him can cope with maybe not having like a traditional 10 that runs around. But let's talk about the 10 that 10 spot. And we'll go to Brendan first. What do you think of Brendan Aronson in the 10? Do you like him in the 10? Have you liked what you've seen? I think there's been some pluses, but maybe I don't think it's all been perfect in a way. His movement's been good. He could be on higher goals. But do you think he's kind of the answer at 10 at this point?
Not sure if he's the full answer, but he's very close to that in my mind. He's gotten better and better as each game has come and gone. Creates chances, is very good on the ball. I do want to believe in him. I love a good redemption story in every sport. If you leave and come back, if you leave as a hated man and you come back and you redeem yourself, that sits very highly regarded in my books. I think he's been fine. I don't think he's the 100% correct answer for what this team could be achieving. As you said, Phil, if we had a proper number 10, this team would fly the rest of the season. And because they don't have a proper 10, there will be really good moments, whether it's Aronson. Willie Nanto I've really liked in central attack as well. Feel like he could be the answer at 10, but I know he likes to play on the wings too, or Fark likes to have him out in the wings. But I think Aronson's going to be the primary number 10 moving forward. I've seen enough out of him to feel confident in that. But, we saw what happened. And obviously the Premier League's a different beast. And he was a couple years younger at the time. But he did get off to a good start under Jesse Marsch. And he faded very quickly. I don't think that will be the case now. It feels like the championship is more suited to his level, his skill level. And he's getting that confidence back. But, I would say 90% of the way there to a proper number 10 would be how I would classify Brendan Aronson.
Bill, what do you think? What do you think about Brendan in the 10?
Yeah. I sort of agree with that. I take the point about Nonto, because actually when he came, it was in the Italian team playing the 10 role really at the time. So somebody must have seen that in him. Whether he prefers that or not, I don't know. But at this moment in time, if I had any criticism for Brendan, I think he's trying too hard. I think he's got that much pressure on him to try and redeem himself
Yeah.
that he's actually trying to do a little bit too much, instead of it just becoming natural to him and him not trying to overwork things. I think he's had a good start to the season by the standards that we were expecting. I think that he's doing well. I just want him to relax a little bit and start to naturally take that position up.
Yeah, it's interesting because he is he's got big shoes to fill. He's got Ruter. He's basically going in for, in a way, and Ruter was just spectacular last year. And then he's got the added pressure of the redemption story of going away the Bundesliga the previous year. So you're right. If he can relax, he should be on a higher goal total. His movement looks good in the 10. I love when Willie joins him in the middle there seems to be like Willie Nanto seems to be like his passing ability. I think is really underrated. I think he's got the strongest leg, maybe in the front four. Him and Perot when Perot joins, and then I think the key to the season obviously will be getting the striker going. What's your take on Mateo Joseph? He's kind of been given the mantle a little bit, um, and he's really kind of the heir apparent to number 9 at this club. What's your take on him, Brendan?
I think he's been pretty good. Obviously, he's missed a couple of sitters and easy chances to bury a couple more goals, but I think he's the longer term answer, at least for this season. That being said, Farke's conference or comments at the end of the game against Cardiff do resonate with me because he's been an incredible and decorated goal scorer and finisher in the championship in years past with Swansea, especially in a much weaker Swansea team where he was getting 20 plus goals. So, I'm not saying I want Perot to take over at all for Mateo Joseph, but it is good to have that option to relieve Joseph and not put all the pressure on him entirely. But I've been happy with what I see. He moves well. And the only skill of Patrick Bamford I wish he might have a little bit more is to hold up the back line a little bit more, because Bamford is really good at that. But no, Joseph, I think we'll see him get better and better as the season goes along. That game in the FA Cup against Chelsea where he got both goals at Stamford Bridge is just potentially a preview of how good he can be. So no, I'll be patient with them. There probably will be a couple more missed sitters. I wouldn't be surprised, but he will bury consistently as the season goes along. So for me, he's the number 9 moving forward.
Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think we've also again got to take into consideration his age and his experience. He's a young kid. Come on, guys. I know he's missed a couple of sitters, but actually one of the sitters that he missed, he actually made that chance himself by closing the defender down, which is a good thing to think about. But from my perspective, I think it's confidence. I think if he gets a couple of goals under his hat, it'll be just a natural. It won't overthink it and that kind of thing. One thing for me though with him is that we're playing so high at this moment in time. I think he's the kind of player that would like us to play a little bit lower and running behind the defenders instead of it being such a compact space where he's got to do a lot to actually create that. I think his pace, his movement's excellent. And if we played a little bit deeper, that would suit him. And I know that we don't, but I've got every confidence in him. I think he'll come good, no problem at all.
Let's switch a little bit to the board. I've been, a defender, a defender of the 49ers enterprises. I think that they're doing things the right way. I mean, they haven't gotten us promoted yet. All right. That's facts. That just hasn't happened. But everything I think communication, I think I could probably take hey, they're not communicating with the fans enough. I could probably take that. That's fair. Obviously we get Angus for an hour to 90 minutes on the square ball. That's, not really a public forum. You don't really hear a lot of questions about the board, the ownership, what's going on there. You obviously see Parag and maybe some ownership group in the owners' boxes. But obviously, Brendan, you have been following the York family who owns the 49ers. And then I was looking at it yesterday. It looks like the 49ers have a basically investment arm known as 49ers Enterprises, which has invested in Leeds United. I thought it was kind of Enterprises and then these two clubs, but it's actually the club and then kind of draw a diagonal out to the Enterprises that owns Leeds United. But, what insight can you give us on the York family, their ambitions as a family to win? I totally see this. They're when it comes out under Angus that nobody wants to get more promoted than the 49ers. I agree with that because they want to see return on their investment. They have to make they have their rear end hanging out on the line a little bit to all these investors that have invested, they need to, and all these investors eventually need to see returns, i.e. Premier League. Otherwise, I don't know, things are going to go a different way. Maybe Red Bull, grows their stake or whatever, but they want to see return on their investment. So yeah, take it from there, Brendan. What do you think?
No, yeah, I think they're incredibly ambitious. I mean, using the 49ers as an example, I don't think there's been an owner in the last year or two that has given out as much guaranteed money as as Jed York has done to keep that championship roster or that Super Bowl contending roster together for the 49ers. Like with injury guarantees, restructuring contracts, it means that you actually have to, pay a lot more money up front, and he's doing that. On the communication front, I'm not surprised at all. I think I said this one of the last times that I was on. I firmly don't believe that communicating during a transfer window is a good strategy to have, because you don't need to talk if there's nothing to talk about, especially when you're trying to hold your cards close to your vest. I do believe that, with all the exit clauses and clauses that could have been met to trigger a release clause, don't say anything. If you accidentally float something out on a podcast or you say something somewhere, that could get a team to come and bite. They listen to everything. Agents do. They talk. So I'm not surprised by the lack of communication, but I believe they're incredibly ambitious. I think what stuck out to me the most with Angus going on the square ball is saying that, they truly will be judged as an ownership group when they do get promoted and are in the Premier League for a year, 2 years, 3 years, because they do have a ton of cash to be able to spend and make it a good team. I fully believe that they've gotten a lot of high profile celebrities in the United States to invest in the club. So I think for the championship, what they've done has been pretty good. Obviously, their top goal of getting promoted in 1 year wasn't hit, but kind of, Phil, you said it earlier, 90 points last year and almost every other season gets you up. So they had a good first year. They won a lot. They got people to believe again. You saw the other day, they released the plans for Ellen Road expansion to 53,000, getting it up to a category 4 stadium for UEFA to host big competitions. They're spending money. Not all of it has gone into the pitch and the product on the pitch, but behind the scenes stuff needs to happen to be a good, successful organization. Get Ellen Road up to standards, but they have a lot of money, but truly they will be judged after promotion if they can keep you up year 1, 2, 3 and establish yourself like Crystal Palace have done, where they can wake up at the start of a new season and be like, well, we're probably not going to contend for Europe. If we do, even better, but we also aren't in much danger of getting relegated. I'm totally fine with being like a Crystal Palace for 5-6 years before, going any further than that. Just get established, get your foot in the door, and that's when the 49ers will be judged in my book. Oh, you're on mute, Alex.
It's interesting about the stadium expansion. It's not only just about the fact that there'll be more fans there, there'll be more ticket revenue, but it's really also about the economic development, right? Like, so, that stadium, that ground, that Ellen Road is people, right? They fly there, they commute there, they come to that specifically and spend money in Leeds and Yorkshire for that club. And having more people there, there's a little bit of a ripple effect that can happen when the stadium expands. It's the construction company that's going to come in and do all those plans, and it's eventually hopefully the other restaurants, bars, and things that'll pop up, whether it be like in the city center or in and around that that stadium, that will allow for that. And like you said, can you imagine UEFA games happening and things like that, or any other tournaments, if the Euros eventually comes back to England or the World Cup comes back to England, that could be a host ground. That would be incredible, I think. So yeah, I think it's very ambitious, and I love the fact that that's going to happen. So Phil, what's your take on kind of the 49ers and some of the things that have happened?
Yeah, I agree again with some of the comments that have been made. I am going to say the European nights at Ellen Road are off the scale, and I mean off the scale.
You've seen them.
Yeah. Obviously, I
You've lived them.
was there through the O'Leary years and the Barcelonas and all that. So yeah, it's completely off the scale. It's unbelievable. For the 49ers, I think they're the best owners that we've had for an awful long time. an awful long time. I think that a lot of people are, because they're so quiet, a lot of people do a lot of chit chatting in between negative and positive. It stirs a lot of debate up. I love Twitter, but I also hate it. It can be absolutely toxic at sometimes, but for news and that kind of thing, again, great. And I think from my perspective, I'd like a little bit more communication just to quell the doubters more than anything else. Because again, we all know that Ellen Road can be toxic as well. So to keep the fans sort of on side in that feel good factor, just a slight bit of communication would be better for me. When I look forward, I would like. I don't know what the situation is completely. I would like them to have said we're going for a 53,000 seat stadium, promoted or not. But I can't see us going for that if we're not promoted. So I have a few doubts a little bit about it. I completely understand. I think they're absolutely fine with the financial situation. I think they would put more money in. I think we've had us hands tied by FFP and the last lot of owners situation. That when you look back at where we were with the last lot of owners, they've had an awful lot to deal with in the last couple of seasons that are still sort of dragging on with us now when you look at where we are with things. But from when I look back at it, I was never a fan. I sort of fell out of football a little bit when it came a little bit too commercial for me. So it becoming not a sport anymore, but more of a business. However, if I was to look at the owners of lots of clubs, including ours now, I'm absolutely buoyant that our business model is a very, very good business model based on success, not taking things out, getting us to where we want to be as fans, as well as enhancing the value of the club. So getting their stake back. And for me, if that's the case, then that's all good. You're on mute again, Alex.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see this club right back again in the Premier League, and it will happen. And what the 49ers can do to really establish ourselves and invest in the squad. If I were to give Rad Razani, the previous owner, his flowers, he was a good championship owner. He was, he recruited God, known as Bielsa, and Bielsa got us promoted. And who was the director of football is escaping my mind. Orta. And I would give Orta his flowers in a bit because he did some things like Somerville. Maybe you give him Nanto. He was good at probably scouting, and then there was obviously some things that were poor in the Augustin and all that. But yeah, I think Raz, once he got to the Premier League, was punching above his. It was just a punch above his weight. I don't think he couldn't really. I guess it's just another level, right? It's not literally another level, and he couldn't get it all together. So obviously, wished he would have sold sooner, but and he probably does as well. Lost a few million in that, but what do you guys think? Is there anything else on your guys' mind as far as the club, Leeds United fans, Leeds United owners that I'm missing here?
I just feel like things are pretty stable right now. I would say, Phil, kind of what you were alluding to. They're still. Last year was a lot of cleaning up the mess that Rads and the ownership, group. That was basically what they had to do, and they're finally starting to get their heads above water. I do believe that they had a pretty massive credit card bill to pay on transfers under the Rads era that they used the sale of Archie Gray and others to do, and they've reinvested a little bit of that. They're under financial. They abided by PSR, FFP, whatever you want to call it. I feel like they're in a good spot. It's stable. let's keep it stable for a little while, but let's keep it stable with a promotion under our belt too, and then keep it extra stable in the top flight. But I feel good about the direction the club is heading in my mind. Like you said earlier, Phil, as well, I do think Daniel Farka is the best option right now to get them promoted. So a little bit more patience. A win on Saturday and another win on Tuesday would go a long way to, getting people back on board and believing again. But no, I'm optimistic with the first 6 matches, how they've looked defensively. They still create a lot of chances despite losing your best offensive weapons from last season. So no, I'm feeling pretty good about where things sit.
What do you think? What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, no, I think the same. I think we've got to remember that there's been an awful lot of firepower sucked out of the club. An awful lot of firepower in the players that have gone, and they are really difficult to replace, especially in a short space of time. If you look at Somerville's growth into the team, where he came from to where he ended up, it's taken quite a long time for him to get to that stage. And we're expecting their replacements to walk in and being exactly the same as they were off the bat. And for me, that's never going to happen. That's never, ever going to happen. They need time to bed in. They need time to get to understand the other players, formations, all that kind of thing. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I think we're doing fine. Absolutely fine, Alex. Yeah.
All that movement in the top, at the top, within the front four, it's not hand in glove like it was in the end of last season and beginning of this season, where Ruter and Somerville knew exactly where they were going to be, what their ideas were. Like, I think it's, to your point, I think it's going to take time for that to gel, and we're creating chances. We just got to start to bury them. And I think that's what we'll do. We'll start to do, hopefully, starting Saturday. I'm just going to look a little bit again at the fixtures. Go ahead, Phil. Did you want to say something?
I also think, Alex, when you look at where we are in the league, if we're in the bottom half of the table and we're struggling for wins and that, then fine. Everybody's got the opportunity to be a little bit shaky about it. But where we are in the league with the players that we've brought in and the sort of rebuild, then yeah, I think everybody should be a little bit more sort of positive than they are.
Yeah, I'm with you, Phil. And the only other thing I'll add, there is no way that there's going to be another squad that pulls what Leicester or Ipswich did this past year. No way. Like, if you told me that 89 or 88 points would get you promoted this year and in first place, I'd believe you, just with the way the other clubs are in this division. I hope we smash it, get to 95, 96, just to make sure everything is there and pull away from the group. But nobody's going to do what Leicester or Ipswich or Southampton did last year. It's a far more, I would say, less top heavy of a league, and there's no reason why Leeds can't be that top dog for this season.
I agree. We went on a run last season where basically we were just watching us turn. We didn't concede, for God knows. Like, what
Yeah.
we didn't even concede. Come on, it's remarkable. We sort of have a little bit of a short memory, and I believe we've got that little bit of a short memory because of the Bielsa legacy. And listen, just like you said, Alex, when you've got God at the helm, then everything steps down from that. Is a big step down, unfortunately. But I think Daniel Farke's the right man.
Yeah, and I think Bielsa might come back once he's done with Uruguay. I think there was rumors, dark web, that they were going to try to get Bielsa back in the championship to run it back, but he was too far along in the contract negotiation with Uruguay to be their national team manager, and so we will see. Maybe if we do get promoted, or Farke, I don't know if he will exit at some point. Farke will. They all do. Managerial changes happen. Maybe God will come back. Go ahead, Phil.
I'll give you something now to think about, and I hope the 49ers are listening to this and a few more are. I think when Liam Cooper gets a testimonial at Ellen Road, I think that we should try and get a Bielsa 11 versus a Liam Cooper 11 and start that conversation then. And again, if he doesn't come back, then we can draw a line under it, say goodbye, and move on. And there you go. And if not, then if he comes back, there you go. That's
Well,
it.
Stuart Dallas is, I know, in and around the club. He's got a position. I don't know what his official title is, but he's doing a lot of stuff on match days. I think he does have some sort of football scouting role with the club. But we'll go over the run in, as Brendan touched on at the beginning. Coventry, Norwich, Sunderland, Sheffield is the next four. And after that, it's Watford and Bristol. So a good solid 4 games here that, if I think it is navigated correctly, 9, 10, 11, 12 points plus. 12 points. I mean, we would probably be
awesome.
top of the league and be, I think off and running from there. I want to take a quick look at the championship table and the standings. Leeds United currently sits 6th in the championship on 11 points. We are 5 points off West Brom, who sit at the top. And West Brom has done a good job. They are also not conceding a lot of goals. They've only conceded 2 goals in the championship.
That's crazy.
Sutherland with a very seasoned back line. Remember that back line isn't Bartley on there?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean he's been at it for a while, so we'll see how long. And Carveron's a heck of a manager. Burnley on 13 points. Blackburn Rovers on 12 points. Sheffield United also on 12 points, sit 5th. The West Brom has not been defeated. Blackburn has not been defeated. 3 draws, 2 wins. And Sheffield United has not been defeated, at least in their last 5. And I think that's what this looks at. 2 draws to start the year and then 3 wins. We'll see. We will see how we stack up against them. But that's my time. Thank you so much, Phil and Brendan, for being on. And I appreciate you guys. And thanks so much for liking, subscribing, and all that stuff. Up the whites, up the peacocks.
Woo-hoo.
And cheers for 3 points.
Let's go.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. See you guys.